I'll probably continue to use Malcolm X because, and I'll probably use it as long as the situation that produced it exists.
You don't feel that Shabazz takes the place of X?
My going to Mecca and going into the Muslim world, into the African world, and being recognized and accepted as a Muslim and as a brother may solve the problem for me personally. But I personally feel that my personal problem is never solved as long as the problem is not solved for all of our people in this country. So I remain Malcolm X as long as there is a need to protest and struggle and fight against the injustice.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings, everybody.
And blessings.
This is a special broadcast of Soundbytes International Radio. We up in here, had to kick off the show the proper way, honoring the late, great, legendary brother, hero, still to this day of our time, Brother Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm Little. And we just want to honor him this evening, want to do a quick broadcast to honor him and everything he stood for. As a leader of our people, ahead of his time, I suppose, and
Ashe.
still here honoring the spirit of who he is and who he's been to us, and seeing how we can let that energy live on. Ashe.
Ashe.
Peace, Sister J. We see you.
We see you out there. We see you. We're taking in a short clip.
When they stand up in the United Nations,
just to bring in his spirit,
and
they're bringing his voice, they're bringing his essence,
practiced by Portugal and Angola, and saying nothing in the UN about the racist practices that are manifest every day against Negroes in this society. Even in South Africa, those Africans aren't faced with bayonets and aren't faced with.
I want you to keep in mind like what he's meant to you, what he means to you. Share with us in the comments, like and share this video. Let's get the talk going. Soundbytes Radio.
Well, I find that to say you're going to lead something creates a lot of hostility, division, jealousy, and envy. I hope to work with any group of leaders or any group of organizations to do whatever is necessary to see that this problem is brought before the United Nations.
Have you had any commitments from any nations in Africa to support?
I would rather not say at this time. But one thing I found in my travels, all of them look upon us as their long-lost brothers.
You realize the implication is that you have had such commitments when you say.
This is your interpretation of what I said.
Okay. Listen up.
One thing that I found in all of my travels was that all of the Africans, not only the Africans, but the Asians and the Muslims, look upon us as their long-lost brothers. And America had actually tricked many of them into a hands-off policy by giving them the impression that they're trying to do something to solve the problem. My argument over there was designed to prove that it is impossible for the United States government to solve the race problem. It's impossible.
Malcolm, on your trip abroad, you said you sensed a feeling of great brotherhood, and that conceivably you would be working toward integration in this country now. At least this is what you're reported to have said. Any comment on it?
I don't think that I ever mentioned anything about working toward integration. They haven't even got integration right here in New York City.
Okay.
You have worse integration problems in the north than they have in the south. So
Up
if it doesn't work if you
south.
can't bring about integration in New York City as international, cosmopolitan, up to date as it's supposed to be, you will never get integration anywhere else in the country.
You're prepared to work with some of the leaders of the other civil rights organizations?
Certainly. We will work with any groups, organizations, or leaders in any way, as long as it's genuinely designed to get results.
Does your new beard have any religious?
Genuinely designed to get
not
results.
Particularly, but I do think that you find black people in America, as they strive to throw off the shackles of mental colonialism, will also probably reflect an effort to throw off the shackles of cultural colonialism.
Yes.
And they may begin to reflect desires of their own, with standards of their own.
Yes.
Malcolm, a more controversial remarks was a call for black people to get rifles and form rifle clubs sometime back. Do you still favor that for self-defense?
I don't see why that should be controversial. I think that if white people found themselves the victim of the same kind of brutality that black people in this country face, and they saw that the government was either unwilling or unable to protect them, that the intelligence on the part of the whites would make them get some rifles and shotguns and protect themselves. Now, Negroes are developing some kind of intellectual maturity too. And they can see that by having waited upon the government to protect them has been a weight that has been in vain. So any of them who live in areas where the government is not able to do its job, then we do have to get together and do a job of protecting ourselves. No Negro leaders have fought for.
Ashe. So, with that being said, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Once again, this is Soundbytes International Radio. We are here. We are back in action. We want to do a special broadcast tonight, especially since, again, as I stated, it's in honor of the iconic, the incomparable Malcolm X.
Ashe.
Today is his birthday. It'll be 94. Is it 94 today? 94. We would have had our brother here with us. But he's here with us in all that we do. He's here with us in all that we walk and eat, sleep, speak. It's just there's a mindfulness to be a conduit for liberation for people, for your people, for your community through your art, through your walk, through your speech. Then he's still with us to this day. Mega ever said you can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So the ideas and the concepts and ideals that Brother Malcolm upheld, as long as his teachings exist, there'll be someone that can share it. And the beauty of storytelling and sharing is that it gets to keep the originator immortal. Mm-hmm. It gets to keep the idea immortal. It gets to keep the power immortal, as long as we continue to tell a story, pass it on through generation, through generation, through generation. Because it's, through our generations, what we've had passed on has not led us to a space of pure healing yet, which is the epigenetic trauma that we've dealt with throughout the ideals of slavery and chattel slavery here in the U.S. and all these different pieces of our history. Not to say slavery is where it starts. I'm saying as far as where the trauma is, especially for Black Americans, without an understanding of their background, understanding of their history, understanding of their tongue, understanding of their culture, have been made to make do to create culture here on this land. Right. And Malcolm X was a stand for having us, really hone in on that and protect our people, love our people, and live in a nationalist mindset of we must protect what we have, whereas, there's other groups, other cultural groups who get to own and protect what they have, amidst American borders, and Black Americans have been left to assimilate or make do with what's been given to them, given to us, versus, being able to truly and peacefully create on our own accord and economically grow on our own accord, the way other groups get to, to do so.
And for me, Nephara and my elevation of spiritual maturation and expansion, a strong piece of my essence and being was sourcing Brother Malcolm X, because I can tell you the reality of it is I had no indication of a Black or an African identity ever until I created myself. Right. Until I heard Brother Malcolm, until I heard, I had an interaction with my 6th grade teacher who created a type of Wizard of Oz that was a Wizard of Madagascar. And he wrote this play and he had us rehearse, et cetera, et cetera. That was something that was shocking to me, because my only concept of identity was Christian. My family gave me, that was the only thing that says you are something, you are Christian, right? Mm-hmm. You're Christian and your goal is to become saved, to live a life of righteousness, etc. But that's not an identity, right? There is a set. This is why we come in to reflect, and this is why Brother Malcolm says, leave your religion at home, right? Leave your religion at home, because there is a sense that a religion as your dynamic, as your identity, it's something that you do. Your religion has a function. It's supposed to create something in your life that helps you live a certain type of way. It helps you mature and elevate your consciousness. And Brother Malcolm was very clear and unapologetic about system and action and clarity. And that was something that resonated with me. Looking at Malcolm X's homemade education, that was very powerful in and of itself, because that indicated to me that what I had was not going to be sufficient, and that I was going to need to do something for myself. So while he didn't say that to me, that's what I picked up from his homemade education.
Right.
His homemade education, clearly he saw there was deficits. And when I didn't find an identity, because I didn't feel Christianity isn't like a thing, like, you know, you see other people, they have a land, like the Chinaman, he's Chinese, he comes from China. Like you see other people, they come from somewhere, they belong to something. And African, you belong to Africa. And Brother Malcolm, he presented this to the space as well, saying that, you know, the reality of it is, if you're Black, you don't belong to nobody or no nothing. Like you have to belong to a place. You're African, and your land is here, right. And these are your people. So there was a lot of unfolding and growing, and the experience of digging deep into what I knew, and really acknowledging what I didn't know, and really experiencing his essence in terms of his direct line to elevation was strictly about education. Education was his line to freedom. And that was something that was put forward. And he also believed in training up those around him. He believed in giving his first fruits and all his information and pouring on his love. So he rides my right shoulder and has been riding my right shoulder for over 25 years. So that's my everyday, like the essence, the being, and also with rigidity, strategic behavior, strategizing, contemplating, assessing, and also joy. Yeah. Right. Because they often show him in all of these pictures of him, you know, stoic.
Yeah, stoic and very serious, and like, yeah. It's not often you see the picture where he's smiling and laughing, you know, right. with Martin and all that type of stuff.
With his daughters,
and
you know,
and Muhammad Ali and all that.
And with playing with his men, his brothers, you know. And you know, having those natural human experiences, and because you're in maturation, and you're in elevation, and you're in consciousness, and your eyes are open, and you have responsibility, and you've elevated, and you've created this landscape where you're holding yourself to a standard, so that you can be of service, the best type of service, and also be responsible for how you're leading. Right, how you are leading, which is why he rides my right shoulder, because he was an awesome and incredible leader in terms of his life's walk, was his rhetoric. And he's one of the very few types of leaders, and this became my gauge through my life. If I could see the work in your heart, eyes hear from your speech, and see it in your life's walk, that was a designation for me, right? And then your rhetoric matching the identity of an African, the pride in African, the community as an African, uplifting. So this is where, and it's not a judge, it's a discernment. It's an understanding that, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I can take these things, I can have this, I can have that, but then there's also some breakdowns, and where our people, and this is why, you know, like sometimes I get like in a sad space when it comes to Brother Malcolm, because if I needed to tell him today, like where we are as a collective, there's been so much setback in terms of our elevation, because what he gave us in the 60s and when before he passed away was really enough for us to take it and run with it. Right. It was truly he was so far before his time that I don't want to be the one to tell him, look, like we like stuck. We got stuck.
This
We
guy
got
is just sort of turning a lateral movement, right? And nothing's like
we got lateral movement, but we haven't made no longitudinal movement really.
mm-hmm.
We had a black president, but that was all for shits and giggles.
It's piecemeal.
That was all about the appeal to the emotion of the black man, the black American.
And actually, looking at it as a mechanism to subdue any form of like uprising, uplift, or waking up, or like being woke. When you got this, like, oh look, there's this black president in your face. See, look, change is happening, and then but you still have them out here doing the dirty work of this long-standing patriarchal white supremacist system that's out here, like on the back end. The front end, he's giving you a high five. The back end, he's launching missiles and or whatever the case may be
on other lands,
people of color.
On the African continent.
But as long as he has shades on, and he's jumping out of his cool car with his cool suit,
all emotion.
It's all emotional tug to have people be in a complacent space, to not want to turn against what is still an oppressive system. And everything we do to combat that is all symptomatic versus us actually looking at the systematic ways
exactly.
we can deconstruct or destroy, eradicate a system that's held us back for so long.
I believe
that's just what that is.
Yeah, well,
it's not about like Obama, but personally, the person, his family, man, all that type of stuff. That part is great symbolism.
That was all well and good.
I'm sure that's part of who he is, but at the end of the day, also you want to look at the different pieces of how you basically subdue the spirit of a tired America. And Black America is American. Black American history. Black history is American history. You know what I mean? That includes all people. And like that disconnect there's been long-standing attempts to make the disconnect, for most of our history.
I also realized that too. There was something else that came into being as I studied Malcolm and I looked all into his maturation and his journey of becoming. And even when you look at the presidency, they always talk about how they study previous presidents. And I'm here to tell you that the presidents, they can study the presidents, but these presidents were rocket scientists. Like Obama was probably the smartest one in the history of the United States government in terms of education, in terms of background, in terms of actual work. I'm not talking about like a handout, right? But I'm just saying they did some things. So he said Malcolm X. Obama did speak once about how he studied previous presidents. He studied previous presidencies. In other words, he studied what they did when they were in office.
Right.
He studied the speeches that were given to them to recite. He studied the moves that they made and the treaties that they created and the alliances that they were instructed to create. The presidencies as a box, not a person. It's a presidency as an inanimate object, as a function, as a thing. So he studied previous presidents, which is what he said, but in all reality, the interpretation is he studied previous presidencies. So I studied and this is before before Obama, but I studied previous leaderships in the African community, scholarship. And I never looked to get a full landscape of leadership or of inspiration, of information from anyone outside of me. Because my mind is saying, why would you tell me the truth? I was so young and I was like, this just doesn't look right. This just doesn't feel right. This just doesn't work for me. Like, it doesn't jive. So I studied Malcolm's maturation, his journey of becoming. And I realized that there were times where as he received new information, he elevated himself and he would go back and say, well, this was what I previously believed. And now this is where I'm now going because this is where I'm leaning to because of these influences. This experience, going to Mecca, having these interactions, this is the space where I'm at with it. Building, he said, I'll take support from anyone who is going against, let me just make sure I read this quote correctly because I don't want to mistake it.
Sure.
Once again, I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, and no matter who it's for or against.
Right.
Right. Just to be clear. So I'm willing to be with that.
Right is right.
Right is right. In other words, right is right and wrong is wrong. Period. Right. I'm not against the white man because of the white man. It could have been a green man. If the green man was over here
dishing out oppression
and redlining communities and killing off African leaders so that they continue to stagnate the progress of African people here in this country, and killing African leaders, specifically when African leaders start talking about stretching their hands to the continent, okay? Because this is a huge conversation. It wasn't just that Malcolm was killed by other black men, right? There's a whole landscape and ways to unpack this experience where it always ends up back in the hands of the oppressive system that created this space.
Right.
It's because life is not happening in a vacuum. So
it doesn't have one face, unfortunately.
No, skinfolk are not always kinfolk.
Right. You know, but there's a system that's informed many different people, and I guess in a sense you could say rewarded them or sought to have them think they were rewarded for their loyalties. Was it just service, like John Wick? Just service.
Service.
I've served. I will serve.
I will serve. Wait, when you said I served,
I served. I serve. I
will be of service.
I will be of service. Yeah. Those folks, their fealty to an oppressive system has them disregard their color, disregard their culture, disregard their ethnicity, disregard their people for the sake of individual gain and elevation. And that's what we've actually seen throughout our history. Specifically, we're looking specifically at our history, but it happens, even in other spaces. But when we look at, we look at our Black history, like we've seen that, in many occasions, where, it's one uprising, like elevation, and then boom, where does the missile come? It's like somewhere probably within the community somewhere, by virtue of some other systemic system that's breaking this down.
And I believe that if Brother Malcolm was still living at this time, he would really have long time said that there's a real need to be able to discernment can't just be it.
Right.
There has to be a means of a rites of passage. And then the rites of passage has to consistently, you have to go back and recommit consistently in order to stay committed. We did see the John Wick, and he did see I serve and I will continue to serve. That's a comment that says it's a bigger picture in that space. Yeah, I need to check it. Are you serving? I'm serving. Are you continuing to serve? Yes, I'll continue to serve. I'm committing to the system. I'm committing to the structure. I've been committed to the structure, and I will continue, regardless to what, right? Friend, family, and folk, cut off a limb, it doesn't matter. I will continue to serve. Okay? So that discipline and that consciousness is something that I'm clear that if it was a proper technique, method, or mechanism, Brother Malcolm would have definitely came in with that. Black folks, you're going to have to be strict. You're going to have to be disciplined. They show about, they talk about how he was with the while he was living in and he had his community, and they were so strict in their behavior, in their foods, in their language. If you start having too many Black men strict about their food, their language, the way they treat their brothers and sisters, what do you think you're going to have soon enough? Soon enough, you can't have all of these products that cater directly to your insecurities, because you wouldn't have them.
Right.
You wouldn't have federally traded companies that pay out dividends every quarter on your insecurities. See, all of these are dominoes, and they lead to something else. So when they take Brother Malcolm, or they take our other leaders, they're not just taking their leaders, because our leaders are talking to our Saul Bona, are trying to level us up consciously, are trying to awaken the African within us, the elevation of the African soul and the opening of the African spirit. Right. And that's going to then cause us to have certain actions. This is why today, we receive information, but we shouldn't have a leader, because you are the leader.
Yeah.
You are the leader. Brother Malcolm made sure he seated so many. Anybody at any time could have taken a spot, and it could have continued to move on. The man died for the movement. Now, how is this possible?
And that's such an important thing when you like the whole idea of seeding the idea of leadership, because in that time it was just looking for somebody has to step up. Somebody has to step up. We're probably looking at the idea of like a president, or like a king, or like a dictator, or like there's that one person in particular.
Right.
And in that time frame, we had our Malcolm, we had our Martin, and things like that, and then it got taken away from us, and it's like almost essentially this idea of like we've lost, or like we lost something. Now when you want to think about it, the idea of like this seeding this power, you seeding power into the community, seeding this power into the people, in an effort to empower the people to be multiple
Step
leaders.
up.
Because it's like, if you like, what can possibly be done when leadership is coming from many angles and many fronts? You know, from the side, from the front, from the back. When you're checking
yourself, can nobody come in and kill the movement? It would then become a vibration. It's a movement. That's
the thing about
Be
it.
responsible. Be the difference.
Multiple wavelengths moving together in unison to create the frequency that'll have us sing the song of freedom that we need to hear.
Among ourselves, within our homes,
within
our own minds, within every space and place where we are. We don't need to wait for leadership.
No.
There's a few mechanisms that you need as an African in order to get on board. And Brother Malcolm laid it out for you. You know what you need to be doing. You need to be living your life with integrity, with commitment to the sending of the African soul and the opening of the African spirit, period one. You need to identify as an African, period one. You need to be committed to the upbringing, to the economic development, to the safety, to the elevation of the African at all costs, period done. And educate yourself. Educate yourself. There's a lot of tools out here to educate yourself. You know something? Go out there and be the work. Go out there and be the work. No more. Do your studying, but get out there and be the work. Because let me tell you, that's how Malcolm rides my right shoulder. Because there was nobody validating me. There was nobody supporting me. My family can't even talk about it. Malcolm says, if you're not being criticized, you're not doing the right thing. And I'm talking about from very young. The only whisper that I could hear, how I drowned out the oppressor's whispers, how I drowned out the programming from the Matrix, is Brother Malcolm's speeches and his homemade education. That's the only way. I wasn't just reading Malcolm. I can't even begin to go into my library. I don't catalog information that way. Initially, I took the information to heal myself. But trust me, it carried me through the journey. It carried me through the journey. It was the way for me to minimize, diminish, to get rid of, to rip out, to shred away, to get rid, in order to get rid of that junk. Came up and started developing, and then ran into Ben, Dr. Ben, Dr. Henry Clark, Neely Fuller. Ran into Dr. Joy DeGrew's research. Oh my God, the earth opened up and cracked and created such a bright light for me when I got a hold of her research. Oh my God, Dr. Umar Johnson. What? When I got a hold of this research, all of these different mechanisms that was speaking my language, I was ready to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
I had been saying it. I needed to hear it from somebody who had done 20 years of research before I even woke up into the space. And I already created all of these narratives on my own and needed the validation and heard the validation, got the validation from Brother Malcolm, then put it into play because I said, oh, that was back in the day. Maybe that's not true now. Let me wait for something else. And here comes something else. And here come new scientists. And here come new Black scholars. Here come new folks talking about be African.
Mm-hmm. What is it? When the student is ready, the teacher will arrive?
The teacher would arrive. And I had to keep moving. Because you know what? It was easy. And I got caught up too, going back and forth with the family, coming back over here, trying to build up something, trying to keep and kept Malcolm riding, and it just wasn't happening. He comforted my soul, comforted my spirit, and kept in the essence and sit there and say, why did I understand what you were saying? My family members, my grandmother, uncles, aunties, they were all living when Malcolm was living. When Malcolm was giving these speeches in Harlem, they were alive. They wasn't involved in nothing. They weren't doing nothing. Remember I tell you sometimes the skin folk ain't always kin folk? They was busy trying to make themselves better seats in the master's house. Mm-hmm. That's all they was doing. They ain't here for no revolution.
By and large, a lot of what we're dealing with in our community.
A lot of it. It's not a diss, right?
It's an observation.
It's an assessment. It's an observation. It's an assessment.
And it's real. And it's a reality.
It's real.
Everyone deals with.
Why? Because this is what we have to deal with, family. This is what we are going to have to be up. This is what we are up against. I want you to be clear. Brother Malcolm was clear. But the difference back then is Brother Malcolm had the je ne sais quoi, something that brought the family in. It brought people in. And even if they would stay long enough, the vibration of other brothers and sisters coming in would amplify it. See, because the oppressor has learned how to amplify our frequency. They've been studying us. You ain't been studying them.
Mm-hmm.
They was talking about think tanks back in the 80s. What are you talking about think tank? Mm-hmm. It's just research. It's just science. It's research, yes. And they've been doing it for a very long time. And if you go into the educational institution, they're going to teach you their way. And they're going to teach you their way, which is going to keep you further from your African center. So it's necessary to send it through an African filter. If you don't have an African filter, then that's what you need to be working on.
Right.
Work on your African filter. And it doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to read 2 books and suddenly you got an African filter. You're not going to attend the ceremony once or twice and all of a sudden you have an African filter. Yes, build it up. The journey of 1,000 miles to give the first step. Start somewhere. I don't want to have to tell Brother Malcolm, listen, yeah, we get, our family, man, we're not really moving.
Listen, if we can do the whole Black Panther thing and go to the ancestral plane and have these conversations, yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to have to like be the one to share this stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, knowing me because of who I am as an individual and because I'm looking for the answers to help the people, I don't help myself. I help my family. I help those closest to me. I make myself available to be a servant to the community. But I want the impact to be greater. I'm going to go to him and say, listen, lay at your feet because I need the word. I need to know what it is. How? Because at the end of the day, something is saying to my mind, the how is cut out your eye. What is it? Pluck out your eye if it offends you. We in critical mass, family. Yep. And if we don't get started, we don't have time to be trying to drag folks that's not coming.
Right.
If you're ready, let's go. While you're working on it, all right. But what I can say to you is don't be an obstruction.
Right.
Get out of my way because I got things to do. And those, it's just so much. It's like the example that he gave was so profound that you can't go wrong with the example he gave. There's so many boxes necessary to build up the becoming. He covered the religious base. He covered the food base. He covered the self-discipline base. He covered the education base. He covered the family base. He covered the commitment to community base. He covered all of these different bases so that you understand that this is the system of becoming. This is what it's going to take. And guess what? The oppressor is not going to give you a check. There's no award ceremony for becoming an African. There is no kudos for elevating your consciousness. There's none of it. They're not going to give them to you.
Right.
Because like I said, there is dividends traded on all of your deficits. Somebody is capitalizing on and exploiting every one of your deficits. So the longer we stay jaded, the more money they're going to make. So you want to talk about economic power in the African community, the first thing you can do is wake up. If you wake up, nobody can no longer exploit us, and we will have all the money we need in the African community. Step one, wake up. That's the bottom line. African first, African above all things, African, 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 period. African, you have a land, you have a history before slavery. African, you are powerful. No one needs to commit you and say, yes, you, check you, you go. Okay, y'all stop, you go. No one has to say that. You a man, you can't ask for civil rights. You get out there and you take them. Like, it was like a ton of bricks to me. Like, ride it. Like riding my right shoulder every day, the essence is present.
And every day is practice and making it practical.
Ashe.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is practice, because the now what is keep going, and keep pushing, and then when you fall, you get up and you keep it moving. But you can't stop once you know. Once you know, you can't unknow.
Yes.
So what you end up knowing, how do you put that into a practice that allow you to strengthen yourself and strengthen those around you by virtue of being in your space? Because that's what a lot of it is. We're relationship-based, we're energy-based people. That's just how we've operated for centuries on centuries. So that it's how we communicate. So it's like what you learn by virtue of that. How are you sharing that with your people to strengthen your people? You know what I mean? Like, how are you sharing the messages? How are you being your greater self with the knowledge and training that you've gotten? And it may be frustrating. It becomes frustrating sometimes, but like the revolution is live. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
It's
so that
happening in
means
real
it's happening in
time.
real time.
With
So
real
you
people,
gotta,
real time.
you can't go back and do over now. You gotta keep it moving. You gotta keep working, no matter what happens. By any means necessary is what he said.
Ashe.
By any means necessary. There's a reason that's been an associated quote. When you think of Malcolm X, you think of that. Period.
Yes. By any means necessary.
You know?
Listen, if it offends you, pluck it out.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, like, and it's gonna be really good to like fast forward and like get to the point.
Yeah.
Get to the point quickly because we're at critical mass. Our house is on fire, family, and we got work to do.
Okay.
We got work to do. I'm not the gloom and doom conversation, but I am the scientist, so I do believe in assessing what's in the space.
You gotta look at
And
it.
there's
See
some
what
stuff
you can
in
do.
the space that's really like it's gonna have some major effects on this family in the next 100 years.
Yeah.
See, these folks were planning for this day 100 years ago. So when they talk about think tanks and scientists and research, yes, they've been studying us. They figured out a system that makes Africans angry with other Africans because they haven't figured their lives out.
Mm-hmm.
Because Africans are seeing with a lens that they themselves did not create within themselves. So therefore, they can't look out into the world and see African. That's what I'm talking about. You need to work on yourself. You are the leader. The concept of a savior comes out of the matrix. Okay? The village African concept is every man responsible for himself, making himself the greatest asset to the community. Mm-hmm. Because you love your community, you strengthen yourself so that you can be the greatest asset. That's African. Ujima. That's African. This concept of looking to somebody else to lead you, that came out the matrix.
Mm-hmm. You work together.
They took you off of the opposite of what they gave you is what's African. They gave you something else. And like Brother Malcolm says, why would you trust someone else, your enemy, which is what he called them, to educate you and educate your children? Why do you think they would give you the tools
to dismantle the house,
to help yourself and your community?
Yeah.
Why would that ever occur to you? Everything they've given to you has taken you entirely to the left, but you should be going right. Mm-hmm. Everything you have is taking you to the left. You should be going right. African, go right. Go right. Don't go left. Mm-hmm. And you know what? The conversation of needing someone to poo-poo you, Brother Malcolm was very strict in his words. He was very direct.
I think that's what's so compelling about him as a speaker. Like, I feel like he could say bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup, but the way he says it, it's such a profound way, a captivating way. And it was like, it's to the point. There's no beating around the bush. You know, there's much clarity. He's clear on what his word is. He's clear on how to interpret it. If you somehow find yourself lost, he will bring you back.
Absolutely.
You know, and with you know, unabashedly, candidly, unapologetically, and very specifically, bring you in the space of what he said. He mean what he said, with all intents and purposes.
It was so loving, and it was so loving.
With all love. With all love.
And I don't get that. I see, this is the thing, you know, even I watch so many interviews and he's interviewing with like white commentators and newscasters, etc. And they always have this conversation, like the one we were just listening to, he asked him, you know, so what is this concept of you telling black folks to gather guns and like, what are they going to do with rifles?
Protection, baby.
You know, like, excuse me? So why do you think that I shouldn't tell my people that they should protect themselves when the pigs is out here in our neighborhoods on a regular basis with nowadays lynchings? Why wouldn't I tell my people? Okay, you know what he did? He flipped it and put it on you. So if it was white folks, what white folks gonna do if they see the government unwilling, not coming for us, and unwilling to come in and participate in protecting us? Who's gonna protect you? I bet you go out here and get you some guns to protect your families.
Right.
I'm just saying. Wouldn't the white man do the same thing? So why wouldn't the black man do the same thing? Mm-hmm. And he was careful how he prescribed action steps to the African family, because he was always concerned with your safety also. Right. He's also concerned with our safety, which is why I'm careful when I listen to certain leadership today and how they infuse the family. I don't want the family becoming riled up and emotional and running out here to go into action over something. And it was tragic, like something recently happened in our news right now, Ashe, Pamela Turner. Yeah, I don't want the family going out here doing something out of emotion and not thinking themselves through, because we'll lose more than we'll gain.
Right.
Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war.
You have to be strategic.
You got to be strategic. And he was definitely a scientist. He was logical, and he was like so precise. And, you know, it's really a lesson on thinking with clarity. Come outside of the emotion and go into the strategy. Because at this point, you're not thinking only for yourself, because at that time he was in leadership. So he can't be talking about, oh, you know, and all this here. It has to be strategic. So, you know, as a person in a day-to-day basis, remember something. We're in a society right now that has created this laziness and consciousness. We don't want to think too hard, right? And this conversation, I'm here to tell you, it was tragic for me to come through and peel all of these things away. I went through a great deal of strain. When I say wrangled the beast of the night, I went through a great deal of strain to peel the onion. Great deal. But today, is the beautiful thing about it, that was 2014. Excuse me, 2004, 2005. Look at where we are today. Today is not really a need for it to be so strategic. I mean, so stressful. You can do it strategically. You can go down a line. You can literally write down what you want to take in, and then you want to start to implement. Because we have too much people in our space who claim that they're leaders because people listen to them, but they, one, don't live the work. Two, they are they're just throwing it around for props so that they can show everybody how much they know, but they're not living it. Because I went through all of those guys. I've been on their sets. I've sat with them. I've connected with them and found out that they're just doing it. They're dope pushers. It's another placebo drug for them.
Pimping consciousness.
A lot of them came, essentially pimping blackness, pimping consciousness. It's some more dope because they know they can get people riled up and they can get it pulled in and they can pull them in and not living it. It's not an action in their daily lives. They behind the scene doing everything in contradiction to what they're telling others to do, because they can say, oh, I learned this, I learned that, I know this, I know all these dates and times, and I can catalog all of this information and show you this cool PowerPoint, etc., etc., and it's all for show.
Yeah, and there's no power in just knowledge alone. You have to apply it accordingly to make it successful. Behind what the intent was. So if you're out here like just talking the talk and not walking the walk, then where you going? Who are you leading? And how you expect it to even like last beyond your lifetime?
They're not trying to make a name. They're not trying to create a legacy. Legacy is not even a conversation for them. It's a new dope. Because some of these guys used to be in the street, right? Some of these guys came out of prison. Some of these guys got to their rock bottom and decided, oh, let me peddle this, right? That became their new thing. They became a pusher, okay? And you know something? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because guess what? I didn't go to Egypt. I didn't go to the tombs and read the hieroglyphs so I've taken the research. I didn't read, you know, this particular section. I didn't read everything about Dr. Henry Clark. I've read some of his things. I've listened to some of his speeches, right? So I take the research, but I also know how to catalog the information. And I don't put too much weight in the person.
Right.
And I also know how to do research myself so I can cross-reference their research. I don't have to take it on face value. Okay? But at that time, I was going through, I was doing a lot of reading back then. A lot of research, a lot of research, a lot of fact gathering. Today, you have some strong examples, some strong samples of people living the work. There's only a few of them. Let's be clear. What I've seen. Okay, it's a lot of Judas here. Okay, you're gonna deny me 3 times before the cock crows. But have a seat. Let's eat. Be clear. Salabona, be clear. And if you're coming out of your African heart, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take the research and run with it.
This is Soundbytes International Radio, in case you're just tuning in. If you're on the Facebook, you should be tuning in, so you should see what we're doing. where Black consciousness is the claim, one world is the aim. Got to say that in the beginning.
Okay.
But that's where we're at with it. You know what I mean? We're talking about Brother Malcolm, what his legacy has meant to us, what his legacy we felt has meant to the community or should mean to the community, what we hope means to the community. And just sharing, you know what I mean? Sharing our pieces.
Yeah.
We like to have our conversation with you as our folk, as our people. So, we hope that you're sharing the videos, you're liking Soundbytes, coming into the conversation, just being with us, in this, because you gotta talk through it to get through it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no getting through it without having the conversation, and observing the pieces that need healing, and work to heal it. Right? And this, if this is one way, this is the therapy of us talking through it, looking at the pieces and making sense of them bit by bit, then we can get where we need to go in due time. And
we're holding the space, family.
Yeah. So this is where we're at. Yeah, we're holding the space. Yeah, for sure.
We're holding the space. We're definitely holding the space in an authentic way.
Yeah.
In a loving way. And we're in it with you. Mm-hmm. We're in it with you. We're living every day. And let me tell you, the commitment is it can be challenging, but we've moved past a place where we cannot be what is the word? They can't, then there's no way to beguile us and try to pull us and try to maneuver and say, come over here, sell out a little bit, compromise a little bit. And it's not about being right. Let's not make that about being right. It's really about being committed to what is, right? And like I said, if you're looking into the matrix for the kudos and for the props and for all this, whatever it looks like, it's not going to look like what you think it's supposed to look like because you've been conditioned to see a certain kind of way.
Right.
It's not going to look like that. Okay. So know that there are other rewards and you get to make those rewards and you get to make that. So if your mind is trying to juxtaposition it to what you've been seeing, I can't remember. What was it? It wasn't Pelican Brief.
With
Denzel Washington. No, it wasn't Denzel Washington. It was the lawyer, Tom Cruise.
Pelican Brief, I think it was. Man, you took it back.
I'm taking it back because the lawyer married his wife. He tried to get him. He was a lawyer of the big law firm and everything looked all pretty. And then he's trying to bring him in, giving him all this money. He's a budding attorney. He's going to bring him and put him on the top. What was it? And he's going to put him on top of everything, on top of the world.
And this guy with this missing eye.
Oh, gosh. No, it was. That's Pelican Brief.
That's what you said?
It wasn't Pelican Brief.
Oh, okay.
It was, I think it was Matthew McConaughey, was it?
Was it recent?
Oh, no, it's not recent. It's old.
Because Pelican Brief is old.
It's old. It's one of these law firm movies. And he's married to the wife, and he came to this law firm. He tried to beguile him. It's one of these old characters. Oh, God, I wish I could think of it. And he tried to get him to sleep with his daughter in the end. It was like some demon type of, I wish I could think of it. It was like some sort of sacrifice.
What?
Oh, God, come on. I wish somebody could help me with this right now. It's really lame.
Is Tom Cruise in it?
I think Tom Cruise was in it. Tom Cruise. Yes, it was definitely Tom Cruise because it wasn't Tom Hanks. Check it out. Let me see.
The Firm?
The Firm. Oh, that's it, baby. It was The Firm.
Yeah.
Yes. Guys, you gotta see The Firm. Like you want to see and I like to bring pictures because as Africans we learn through pictures. We learn through colors. We learn through our sensory is our biggest type. One of our most our dominant learning, many of us, our dominant learning style. It's easiest to grasp. And if you can apply it, implement it, experience it, it'll probably stick with you. So if you see these pictures, you'll see how, it was made so amazing and everything seems so great. And come over here with this and, you're a new attorney and we're going to make all this money. And the wife was saying, I don't know about this thing. I think they caused her to have if I'm not mistaken, I believe they caused her to have a miscarriage. She was pregnant. Lost her baby. Anyway, the long story short, it was around, getting caught up in being beguiled into this space in order to compromise. And then sometimes you just don't know how deep you've gotten. And because of the mechanism and because of the layers, the system, the matrix itself has a lot of checks and balances to ensure that when you walk into a canal, that there's going to be something to meet you there to pull you in on that side. And sometimes it might be skin folk. Because it has, at this point, it is a residual effect. It's in so many different spaces on so many levels. It has so many residual effects that it folds into itself. And you really want to tune up, right? So this is why you want to do your homemade education. You want to get your facts. You want to strengthen your spirit. You want to strengthen your soul. You want to strengthen your self-discipline, because if the system has nothing to offer you, they have no power over you. You see? And this is where Brother Malcolm was. This is why he was so dangerous. This is why they found him to be so dangerous. He's not trying to prove a point to these folks. He's not even talking. I'm not talking to you. So y'all claim y'all don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not talking to you. You feel me? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You don't have to understand me. Guess who understand me, my people? They hear me. They hear me. They feel me. They got me. I'm not talking to you. You offended by my conversation? You think that, I'm too direct or what have you, and you don't like my instruction to my family? Guess what? They know what I'm talking about. Right? So, and it's not about being against anyone. The point is, heal yourself. Heal yourself. When you heal yourself, there's a whole lot of residuals that are going to occur when you heal yourself. When you make yourself the greatest asset to your community, by educating yourself, by disciplining yourself, by making yourself upright, you're going to have such a great impact in your earth space, within the earth's family, within your own community, within your own nation, that there won't be any need to haggle with anyone about anything. And they can't come in and take nobody, because everybody is on the same footing. It's not okay for the lazy mind, for the lazy effort, to sacrifice anybody in this community because they're not willing to do their part. We don't need to lose any more leaders. We don't need to lose any more of our assets to the matrix and to the system, because we have not created a space where we can fortify one another. Because they can beguile our family and pull our best first fruits away from us. And they've been doing it for hundreds of years. Why? Because it looks like they have so much more to offer them. It looks like their party over there is so much more fun than ours. It looks like their things are so much better than ours.
Their ice is so much colder.
Their ice is so much colder than ours over here. They got bigger cars. They got bigger houses. They got bank.
Bigger screen TVs.
They get to make them feel good. They get to poo-poo them and salute them and lift them and elevate them and give them all of these accolades and everything. And we ain't got nothing going on over here. That's what it makes it seem like. I just didn't want to be that person to have to tell Brother Malcolm. I wrote him an open letter some years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I cried my face out trying to write this letter to him. I really did, because I had to be honest. I wouldn't be nothing else but honest. In honor of his sacrifice. And he paid the ultimate price. And then his family paid after. We didn't even talk about that.
No.
Hey guys, we're at Soundbytes International Radio here tonight, giving our reflection and our tribute to our personal ancestor that lords over the Soundbytes radio show. Okay?
Our Prince of Peace.
Our Prince of Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Prince of the family. Prince of the people. Brother Malcolm X. And we get to really connect with the fact that his family paid the ultimate price as well.
Yeah.
His family, his girls, his wife. I just wanted, one time over the years, I just was having a moment with Betty Shabazz, with Dr. Betty Shabazz, because I was like, whoa. I was just like, I was in such a heavy place, because I'm looking at her sitting there with her baby, watching him fall from behind the microphone and watching these men shoot her husband. How? When all the man did was serve the people, help the people be better. How? How does this grow in our community? How does no one of all the people that's in all the places, no one said, you know what? Nah, we got a code. Let's get on code.
Mm-hmm.
We got a code, man. Come on now. We don't do it like that. The man, he don't owe you no money, right? He hasn't slept with your wife, right? He hasn't robbed your house. Let him go. Let him do his thing. Let him rock out. Like, so what? At the end of the day, if you're losing, then get better. If your set is falling, then go over there and build a new one.
Right.
Like, don't come for that man like that. Nah, we're not going to do that. We can break off. That's why we got Catholics and Lutherans and, right, Methodists. Go on over there and do your set. Go do your thing. That's how that happens. I don't see how, but the truth about the truth is that's what's real in our community. That's something that we really got to deal with. But that spirit right there should always be somebody telling. Because if we always thinking about what's best for our community and our families and our future, Brother Malcolm should have been living because he was good for the future of Black people.
Right.
He was good for the future of the African. So for that, he should have been living.
Right.
Along with the fact that he has a wife and kids that grew up without a father. And none of these community people can trust me. I've seen them. They don't stand up and rally up around you when your family members fall down. For the people. For the community. They don't do that. A little effort comes through every now and again here and there. But those children were toddlers. Kindergarten, first, second graders. They had a whole lot of life to live before they grew up and was able to self-sustain. Who was taking care of her? Looking out for her and her family.
That's
in
what
the wake.
That's what community would have done. That's what the village would have done, is have, no matter what, the family is taken care of. That's something we're lacking, that unification, to where no matter who falls in the family, no matter who stumbles in the family, whether on their own accord or by, just
illness or whatever it is.
The family should always be able to be taken care of.
Just by virtue of being a servant to the community in an authentic way and having given your first fruits. Listen, there's a lot of work that's out here to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to put myself on par with Brother Malcolm at all. But I'm here to tell you the work that we do is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And then, we got to remember that we still are in a space where we have Africans who aren't awakened to their African spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Who, like I said, the Matrix creates the residuals of this experience in others, in the hearts of men. People do things. People make things happen. So there are Africans who have not awakened to their Africanness, who are either not of service and could be, or who are deliberately obstructing movement because of their own issues,
right?
Because of their lack of ability to see African, because of their lack of commitment to African, because of the fact that they are emotionally immature. This is what's happening. The simple things. We have real big fish to fry in the African community when it comes to our collective survival and well-being. I'm here to tell you, big problem. Slavery has been back. Mass incarceration is slavery by another name.
Exactly. So it's a different name.
It's slavery by
name.
another name. And now that the prison systems are federally traded, we have to ensure stock on the shelves, which yet again brings back dehumanizing African bodies and making them stock, much like stock on the down at Wall Street, traded on the Wall Street docks. Stock. got to keep stock on the shelves because the companies are federally traded. So we have to ensure in our forecast over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50 years of this stock survival, we have to ensure its longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to create some techniques, methods, and mechanisms over here, some staples, in order to create some residuals so we can create some inevitable stock that's going to end up in our prison system.
Mm-hmm.
Family, we listen, come on, y'all. Let's hit. Look here, look. It's real in the field. So it's very important that you take responsibility. And I'm here to tell you, Brother Malcolm standing here, he gave his life, paid the ultimate price, and stood for the family as he elevated and awakened, and he gave in his life into liberating the African mind. I'm here to tell you, that was the only thing that was important to him. When he talks about creating a better world for his children, identity, he stood for the African, the ascending of the African soul and the opening of the African spirit. Nothing else was more important than that. We got work to do because those folks over there, they've been studying and they got plans. So while you at the concert and while you celebrating Christmas and while you putting your coins over here and you screaming and howling and marching, which is a great thing about police brutality, the bigger picture is the residual effects to ensure that our stock in our federally funded, federally traded privately funded, federally traded prison system ensure that there's a residual to ensure the longevity of these stock. And guess who's been designated as a designated sufferer African? So we got work to do, people. That's only one. There's a couple of other boxes that they got going on out here that I don't know if we clear. I'm not sure that we clear. Because at the steps that I'm looking at us moving as a collective, I'm not too sure that we're clear.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we're doing are not demonstrating clarity. They're not demonstrating strategy and actionable steps.
There's confusion in the space.
It's looking like confusion. It's a lot of confusion, a lot of people checking a bunch of boxes, a lot of movement, a lot of things that's happening that's throwing our energy off, and we are not using like kinesis. We're not putting the most power into the blow, moving as a unit and sending all of our power into a space so that we can create maximum impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. They got us scattered, and our brains and our minds and our efforts are everywhere. Therefore, they can definitely maintain power, and they can continue to oppress African people across the diaspora because we are not using our collective force.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I hope that we can do something different, family.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can truly honor Brother Malcolm with our actions and with our strategy and with taking the most important thing that I believe that we could do to honor our Brother Malcolm is to take responsibility for ourselves. Take responsibility for making ourselves upright.
First. God talk to self
Start with
first.
upright, becoming upright as an individual, upright in your thoughts, upright in your speak, upright in your actions and in your dealings and in your relationships. Upright. If you don't know what upright is, find out what upright is, African.
Yeah.
Find out what being upright is and be that. And then you can put all these other ingredients into the space to add to you becoming upright. Because I can tell you something. If you are a residual of the matrix, you are not upright. You think you're standing, but you bent over. And you getting it from behind. I promise you.
Okay.
They getting us. So hear me when I tell you, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Stand upright, African.
That is the word. Stand up right for self. Stand up right for self first.
Honor, Brother Malcolm.
What much does it do to try to prescribe and what have you if you're not standing up right for yourself first and foremost? Because then you're the one that has the most personal training around it, so that then you can exact that personal training in the space to help other people receive it as well and give them permission to be who they need to be in their space. and have that be the ripple effect that the community needs to grow unapologetically into the African mindset, the spirit of the community, of the people. No matter what anyone else outside says, that we stand firm in who we are as a people, collectively, spiritually, individually, like together, however that looks. And that we have each other's backs. You know what I mean? So that's what it has to be. Constant, consistent, collective, persistent, a committed action on a daily basis. Whether it's what you're thinking, whether it's what you're eating, you're sleeping, you're talking, you're being, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to your people, all that plays critical roles in how you get to be the difference. People want to talk about, oh, I'm this one person. Yes, you're absolutely one person. You are absolutely power. You are that one person that can make the difference. Because it only takes one pebble in the water to make a ripple effect to have the water change shape.
Speak on it.
Have the water change its shape. You know what I mean? Like, head out there, jump out there, take the big leap within yourself. And it doesn't even have to be this big, grandiose action. It starts with the smallest action. The smallest actions it starts with a thought. Because what you think is what you believe you are, is what you believe in the space, and that's what shows up.
Yes.
So think yourself into the space of power necessary to shift the people. It don't have to be tomorrow, but over time, when you have this progress, it's progress.
Becoming.
You know?
Becoming. This is why I always say becoming. Becoming, because it's a process. There is no destination for the liberation of the black mind.
No.
Let me tell you, they've done this. This ditch has been dug so long. I am a lifelong learner. Okay, I will forever be expanding. Ashe. I will forever be expanding.
That's what it's going to do.
That is the journey of becoming. And it's a beautiful thing to be in elevation, in ascending, the ascending of the African soul and the opening of the African spirit. Ashe. It's a beautiful thing. So, I don't know.
We in here, y'all. We just sharing the energy.
We just sharing energy, family. We got the 7-day candle for Brother Malcolm.
Yes.
We got our incense and
shake it up, shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em.
Give our the spirit of Brother Malcolm is definitely present here.
Being here, you know what I mean?
But it's a daily being. It's a daily being.
It is. But it starts with the thought. It starts with what's going on in here.
Yes.
What's going on in here, what's going on in here is what will have what's going on out there be different.
Yes. So don't have to worry about anybody else's problem. Oh, they're not doing this for us. Oh, they didn't help us.
Cool.
So what?
So what? Who cares?
So what?
It's all about what you're doing for you.
Do for you. And that's not about being selfish. Do for you. Educate yourself. Open your spirit. Train up your discerning eye.
Yeah.
Train up your discerning eye. Because the way they're tricking us, they've been tricking us for the past 200 years.
Own your vision.
They've been tricking us the same way. Right, family? Right? They can't keep playing the same trick on us, player. They can't. We have to be different around this.
Gotta be different.
So, and it's our responsibility to take control of ourselves and our vision. Own your vision. Ashe. So I'm Neferatu, my Atira.
Yeah, I'm Hisirka Nefera. And again, this is Soundbytes International Radio. We appreciate everyone that's been vibing with us, and chatting with us, having conversations on Instagram and on all the pages. And continue to be with us in the build, listening to our voice, being with our voice, and hopefully seeing your voice through what we share. We can be the space for you to have the conversation, and that is what we're here to do.
Fine.
And if that's been it, then damn it, that's been it, and that's the beautiful thing, because it starts somewhere. What did Tupac say? I may not be the one to change the world, but I'll be the one to spark the mind that will change the world.
Ashe.
And we can be that. We can be both.
And that's fine. That's fine too.
But
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it supersedes us. It's about how are we working in the collective effort to make it happen. You know what I mean? We build with the voice, we can build with our hands, we can build with the mind, we can build with our art. And what gets cultivated in the house is something that no one else can break down as long as we stay committed. So, and Soundbytes Radio, International Radio is committed to be committed.
Okay.
To standing for having the house have a strong foundation, and continue to build up, continue to add on rooms endlessly, abundantly. We continue to go grocery shopping and then feeding the people the way we need to feed them. You know what I mean? And feeding ourselves in the process too, because we're all working, we're all continuing to progress, we're all learning. You know, we're all doing what we can. You know, it's a beautiful thing to work together. So, this is Soundbytes International Radio. Y'all follow us. You know, we are on. We're about to start some music in a bit. We're on Facebook, Soundbytes International Radio on Facebook. We are on Instagram, Soundbytes INTL Radio, and we are working on the website. Soundbytesintlradio.com is in the way. On the way. It's not in the way. It's on the way.
Yeah, but then we can also go into the Keys to Soar page. Just still on there.
Keys to Soar page.
KeysToSoar.com.
Right.
We're still on there. We're still providing services under the Keys to Soar.
Yeah.
By way of personal counseling, mediation, family and relationship mediation. Also, we're doing some workforce development for developing professionals as well as executive coaching.
Right.
We're building out a product right now for businesses to support you in creating a strategic plan. I've often seen where we're in business within our Black community, and there's always the things that are missing from the landscape of creating the business. So we're doing the business because we create the product, but how are we doing business? Are we providing service? Are we thanking our customers? There's quite a few different pieces inside of this. So we're looking to create that product to support businesses as well.
Yeah.
And we're also going to bring back the sister circles and the brother circles, and we'll be looking to build out some community support services around that. So you can reach out to us because we are definitely a space for building and for being in service. You can refer us out. We're here for coming. We can come on site with you. We're very vulnerable. Versatile. We're vulnerable.
Vulnerable and versatile.
We're vulnerable. Because that's our love, right? That's our love. But we're versatile in that way. So reach out to us at that, KeysToSoar.com as well. And look to check out Soundbytes INTL.
Radio. Okay, you say no, and that's short for international.
International, INTL.
International because we're going to reach all our people, our global people. So it's not,
exactly.
It's not just an American conversation, but our people outside the borders, across the diaspora, get to have the conversation too. They're having it, and you probably don't even know.
Definitely having it.
You know what I mean?
We're definitely
and
having
vice
it
versa.
around the world.
And vice versa, so we get to bring the conversation together into one space. So we hope to get, over time, get some, special guests coming through, some other voices you can hear that are speaking on the issues that are necessary for us to understand and uproot to get to where we need with the healing. So it's Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. Special Sunday night broadcast going into the work week or whatever you want to call it. And we'll be back around. We'll be back around. We're here. So stay tuned. Time details, everything will be coming soon. Just keep following us, keep liking us, keep sharing us. And
keep sharing the material.
Keep sharing the materials.
Nefratu Matira.
Hisirka Nefra, Soundbytes International Radio. By conscience is the claim, one world is the aim. We'll see you next time, folks. Peace. You want to ride out with some music?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, right now with some music.
I'm going to put on BRI. I like BRI.
Okay, so do it. Go ahead. Let's rock out. So we're going to ride out with some vibes to end out the show. This is yours truly with the Be Alright 2.0 because we're going to be all right, y'all. And this is the soundtrack to the movement. So we hope you enjoy. One love.
PathPmusic.com.
PathPmusic.com. Yes.
Under the light of the moon rise, I find solace in the glow. Trying my best not to be consumed with what the night brings. All the heartbreak, scars, the looming bouts of depression, brought on by mass oppression and rising progression. There's various backgrounds are thrown for loops. We falling victim to vocal suppression. Feelings could no longer remain tame, dipping and diving in and out of consciousness amidst a crazy world, fast asleep. 3 a.m. Your life moves like rush hour, and you're left praying it doesn't escape you.
I'm just wasting time, trying not to lose my mind. Don't need my to survive. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright.
Disoriented, lost in the fray. My dreams ain't what I thought, feel my mind misleads. A stranger in the land where my hand was heavy. Now my heart weighs even more, this a time of need. Signs ain't enough, feels like rhymes ain't enough. Trying not to succumb to the pressure as the garden grows weeds. No one feels safe, aim is to create with their faith. Drill down the will of the masses, making America great. It's no wars here, just big voices and balls here. Growing African minded, we will not be divided. From Mexican to Yemenis, mainly standing behind us. Muslim, Buddhists, or Baptists, the divine way will guide us. And my Latinos and Latinas, you're my brothers, my sisters, my people. So lo quiero difundir el amor contigo. Black, brown, and Asian, lion of the nation. All hands in the middle, let's demolish the hatred.
I'm just wasting time, trying not to lose my mind. Don't be my to survive. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright.
We can stand to love much more than we are right now. Love ourselves, the self-love that properly ignites the love of others. Once we get clear, we can see ourselves and others. The God in me sees and respects the God in you. We really are all the same, though we may look different. We share experiences, thoughts, emotions, across the diaspora, across humanity. The human in me sees the human in you. See, freedom starts in the mind, the heart, tandem, working for something tangible. And it is there if you choose to see it. We're so long programmed to be in need or think we are in need, when in actuality we are all we need. What the world's been waiting for. Best believe, my friends, you are divinely made. I should.
I'm just wasting time, trying not to lose my mind.
First I know the best.
Don't do it.
Okay, we do it.
We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright.
Yeah. Soundbytes International Radio. We out.